Welcome to the Along Podcast. I'm Sierra, a millennial.
And I'm Tracy, a baby boomer.
And on this show, we're not afraid to talk about age and how it changes things. Wellness, lifestyle, relationships, honestly, just everything in life. So come along with us today because we are talking New Year's resolutions. Tracy, it is that time of year where we're all thinking about the last year and how we want 2025 to be different. And I don't know, maybe you're finally going to start going to the gym, or maybe you're finally going to start saving money. But at the end of the day, we're all sort of thinking about resolutions, right? And it just feels like a toxic cycle sometimes to me. So I really wanted today to talk about reinventing resolutions. Yes. But first I want to ask you, what do you even think the point of a resolution is? Like, is there any point to it?
I mean, I think it's just a thing to me. It's just sort of it's kind of just a thing we do during the holidays. But I have to say, I did a little bit of research, and apparently the ancient Babylonians started doing it way back.
Oh, really?
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I
wondered where it came from. So that's a little tidbit.
I didn't even think about when resolutions started. I guess I've just always thought that since the day of time, since the day of man, the dawn of man, we've always reflected about how maybe we should probably do better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it's about, right? Is like you look at the past year and you're like, oh God, there were all these things I wanted to do and I didn't do it. So this year I'm finally going to do this and I'm finally going to do this. And we make all these promises to ourselves. And then come March, we just forget all about them.
That's why I don't do them, Sierra.
I know. But I did do some research in here, and I found as well that one study from Baylor said that 88% of people who set New Year's resolutions fail them within the first 2 weeks. Okay. And then there was another article from Time that cited that as many as 80% of people fail at their New Year's resolutions by February, and only 8% of them stick with them the entire year. How depressing is that?
I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
I mean, why do we make them in the first place, though, then?
I don't even know if people really know why. I think and I wonder how popular the actual New Year's resolution first of the year. I mean, it's just interesting. Yeah. It's like, is it as popular as it's always been, or is it not?
Yeah. Okay. So that's what this is about, because I want to start a whole movement to rethink resolutions. Okay.
Good idea.
Let's throw them out. Let's throw out the resolutions in the way that they currently are. Maybe we need to come up with a whole other word that we'll think of by the end of this episode. But I think that people make resolutions because they're trying to escape some other version of themselves. Like they're just, and to me, a resolution always seems so drastic. It seems so overhauling. Like if you have to wait until January to implement this, it really does seem that something is a much bigger change than what you were capable of doing for the last 12 months, right? And that's what I think is really setting us up for failure, is this idea that this resolution is something entirely different than who you were before. It's this big drastic change in your life that inevitably is going to be hard to maintain if you're not realistic with yourself about who you are and what your issues are that you need to change, you know?
Yeah. I kind of wonder if the resolution is that we feel better just having them, just making a list or making a resolution just because.
It's the thing to
do.
So
you can say, okay, now I've made some resolutions.
Well, especially with social media, this is the time of year where everybody's talking about it, right? They're talking. January is the time where equipment or gym equipment goes off the rails, and suddenly everybody wants to join a gym and everybody wants to buy a treadmill, and they're doing all these things, and they got all of this stuff on Black Friday or Christmas with the intent of, I'm going to start on January 1st to improve myself. And it's all over sales pitches. Truly, if you look at like Black Friday stuff, it's like all of the, expensive gym equipment and expensive gym clothes and all of those get like crazy sales for like this new year, new you sort of mentality. And it's kind of hard to avoid. I think everybody else is thinking about it, right?
Maybe we're just addicted to new. We want new.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Even new versions of ourselves.
Exactly. Well, I was thinking about this before we did this episode, and I don't think I've ever done a New Year's resolution, but here is one thing I do and I have stuck to is on New Year's Day, I'm very conscious of doing, healthy, positive things for myself, because I read somewhere years ago, and it's out there. The saying is, what you do on New Year's Day sets the tone for the rest of the year. So I take that to heart.
Yeah.
And so I and that's why I don't go out and party on New Year's Eve. I almost never have done that, because I want to wake up early, 5 a.m. even, Greg, as we've talked about, and just start doing good things all day. Just super healthy things, not, being obsessive about it. And then it just sets the tone. Does it? I mean, I don't know. I just do it. It's just a thing.
I think you're right. I think if you start off, it's kind of like the same thing. If you start your morning with like a workout or a meditation or whatever, it sets up like your day.
Yeah, like that.
Like
exactly.
that. Like, yeah, it makes sense that that's how you sort of start your year. But that's the thing, is like, if you're starting your day like that, that sounds like a great day. But how do you implement that every day? Right? Because
exactly.
This is really where we get in trouble, or I guess at least where I get in trouble in the past when I've tried to make a resolution, is if I make a resolution that I'm going to, let's say, go to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week, but then my schedule hasn't changed. It's just as busy as it was before. I haven't looked to see like, okay, well, how am I going to make the time for that? I'm inevitably not going to make it to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. Or maybe the first couple of weeks I'm really good at it, and then I, fall off to like 3 days a week or something like that. Or I fall off to 1 week where I only go once, and then it gets harder and harder to get right back up to that number. And like, it just seems like what we want really isn't necessarily the going to the gym the 4 days a week. What we want is the person or the benefits we think we'll reap from doing that activity, right? And we want a shortcut to get there. Let me do it all overnight and not just work my way to that, but instead we want to just wake up January 1st and we're there. We're that person, and there's no looking back. And I just don't. That's what I kind of don't like about resolutions, is the fact that they're this supposedly magic moment where we all wake up and become Cinderella.
I mean, that's why I just do. I mean, I don't do it on New Year's Day to say I've got to do what I'm doing on New Year's Day the rest of the year. I just do it, just as almost like a superstition.
Yeah,
it's for that, and it's easy. You can't miss. I mean, if you that's all you have to do.
Yeah,
and then let the universe do the rest.
That's true. That's true.
It's not that easy, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think when I think about the biggest changes that I've successfully made, it's taken time, and it's taken it's taken real thought of how I'm going to implement those things. Like, can you think of something that has been a big change in your life, but it took you years or months to get done?
No.
Really?
Should I have an answer?
I don't know.
I the only thing I can say is just my commitment to working out. And I did think about this when I was your age and younger, how this would pay off when I get older. Not that it was the only reason, but I recognize the importance of just playing the long game.
Right. Well, yeah, I do. It's funny that you say that, because I was actually rereading a book called Atomic Habits in preparation for this episode. And one of the things that he talks about is that, so obviously we all know that there's a reward of playing the long game, but it's so hard to think about the long game.
Right.
And if you're the type of person that you can think long game wise, that like if you're somebody who's really, really good at saving money, you're probably a long game thinker, and you probably don't have the issue of breaking your resolutions. But a lot of people can't think that way. It's really difficult for them to think, okay, long term, I will be this person. A lot of people want short term, happiness or short-term satisfaction, right? That's something that's instantly going to reward them. And it's really difficult when we're thinking of resolutions to find ways to make that work. If you think about it, people do dry January. They're only doing it for 30 days. Some people do get sober after that, but a lot of people, they're like, as soon as February rolls around, they're like, okay, now I get to reward myself for doing something for 30 days with going out with my friends, or the Super Bowl rolls around and then suddenly before you know it, you're drinking a beer. And it's so interesting to me that like we think like this. It's a cycle every year that we fall into. And like, how do you break out of that?
I mean, I think the best way is, and when I did a little of my own anecdotal research, I got some interesting answers. I asked some baby boomers, a couple of millennials, which was really interesting, but not one person. And I didn't get a huge, massive people.
You didn't do a Gallup poll?
I did not do the Gallup poll. I really just didn't have the time. They all talk in more broad terms about the new year and how they don't like resolutions, including the millennials. And they'd rather do like vision boards and stuff throughout the year, which I think is kind of heartening. I think that's really great. And I think that to me is ideal rather than doing a resolution.
Right. I agree. I think slow and steady wins the race. And also constantly checking in yourself, not expecting yourself to be a completely different person. But then, that makes me think, where are these numbers coming from? These 80% of people that are failing to keep their resolutions by February and only 8% of them sticking with them the entire year. Is the list too long?
Maybe it's the gyms. It's the
gym. That's what it is.
I mean, maybe in all reality, maybe that's,
I have to imagine that's probably the most common resolution is it's probably, if you look at the Sierra Gallup poll, I would imagine it would probably say health is probably the number one thing, right? Something to do with either weight loss or going to the gym or all of the above.
Yeah.
The second one is probably money. And the third one's probably family and relationships.
And I also think declutter, because I've been thinking about that too.
Yeah.
I think that people, that's a pretty good resolution.
Yeah.
And I kind of sort of I've been thinking about that and I want to do that.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, so when I did my investigation about this, one of my friends, and these are more rituals, which I love rituals, is he puts a bowl of money outside his front door. He's in an enclosed building, on New Year's Eve. And it's just a superstition.
It's supposed to bring him money.
Yeah, it's supposed to bring prosperity. So you know what? I'm going to do that. Why not? It can't hurt.
I have heard of like little things
I've never
like
heard
that.
of doing that. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, as long as somebody doesn't steal your money, you are an outsider.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't do it here on my house. It would be right on the street. Someone for sure would take my bowl of money.
But I think that's another kind of probably thing that people do. They do their rituals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, whatever makes the magic happen and makes you want to motivate yourself during that time. It's funny because I love that the people that you talk to were kind of like, I'm not really into resolutions, because I've been thinking about this more and more as like we were talking about making this episode. I think it's been a long time since I've made a real resolution. The closest I got probably was last year. I really wanted to make an effort to be more, I guess, practical about how much time I'm spending walking my dog and actually like commit to getting in a certain amount of time a day, because it was so easy that if I have somewhere to go or if I have work or something like that, I would rush her in the walk, which, I mean, look, she still got her basic needs in, but she spends all day in the house. And part of making me feel like I'm a good dog mom is making sure that she's happy. And I can't imagine it's really great to be an animal that only gets, to be outside 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, and then just lays around all day. So I really wanted to make an effort to committing to doing that. And the only way that I could really do it and get myself to commit to it was finding ways where I considered it also good for me, which I know sounds really selfish.
But it actually makes sense.
Well, okay. So then I realized that actually a lot of times when I start my morning, I just roll right. I had this terrible habit of immediately opening my laptop. I work with a lot of people that are on the East Coast. And so my email is blowing up by 7 a.m. And it's so easy for me to make my cup of coffee, sit down, and then just look at my phone. And suddenly, before you know it, I'm in that world. I got to the point where I was like, okay, my time to do this with my dog is to try and do it in the morning, assuming I don't have meetings at like 8 a.m. because sometimes I do, unfortunately. But my time to do it is that 45 minutes in the morning with my dog. And it's also good for me. I'm like resetting my brain. I'm getting into one with nature. And look, I know not everybody can do this because not everybody lives in beautiful Los Angeles where it's walkable season 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like sort of situation. Exactly. But I feel like that finding a way to make it something that was also rewarding for me made it a habit and a resolution that I could stick to. Because yes, do I want to be a good dog mom? Sure. But sometimes things get busy. And sometimes the last thing I want to do is like spend 45 minutes watching her walk in circles, find the perfect poop spot. But I love her and I will do it. But it is hard to make time for sometimes, especially when life is so hectic, you know?
Well, and then, so the question is, do we even need to do resolutions? I mean, is it, and like you're saying, reinventing resolutions, it's another way, it's a way to rethink it. And by the way, I forgot, because I brought this little show and tell, I won't be, like reading from it necessarily, but this is another thing I do. And I've been doing this for years. I reflect on the year that has passed.
I think that's really smart.
And I ask myself, what did I do differently in the past year from the year before? So it's that thing of just being aware of trying to do something new and different every year, or a lot of things. And then I keep track of it. And so this is my journal to sort of reflect back. And then when you do this, then you think about it for the upcoming year and think about, okay, I want to do, different things and maybe even think of some things. It could be. But there's something about reflecting back on the year and saying, okay, because doing different things. I have different experiences.
Yeah, I think the reflection part is so important, right? Yeah. Because it brings about, and great that you actually write it all down. I just think in terms of, work a corporate job. And even just when we set our goals, part of what they have you do first is do the review, and then you set goals. Okay. So you do a review, or your manager does a review of like how you performed over. And I have seen a lot of videos of people talking about that when they're setting their resolutions and intentions for the new year, going back and looking at like, okay, here were my resolutions for last year. Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? But the problem, and what I actually really like about what you're doing, is like you're writing down things that you changed, not things that you wanted to do. And did I do it before? Like, did I successfully do it? It's just, this is realistically how things went. It's like a performance improvement plan for you.
And one of the things on the list is, guess what?
Yeah.
This
podcast.
Because we started this year.
We did. Yeah.
And I think that's, I love that I can reflect back and have that and other things.
Yeah.
Say, oh yeah, I did this, got into the healthy longevity space, but it kind of circled around to this.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it makes me feel good every year.
It's honestly, it's a much better method than looking at the resolutions you made last year and then seeing whether or not you did it and then just remaking new resolutions. I think a better way to go about something is to have a realistic conversation with yourself about how the year went. Really just sit down and think about, what did I do this year? What did I do that was different? But also, what in general did I spend a lot of my time struggling with this year?
And am I different?
Yeah.
In what way am I different? Could be a question to ask.
How are you different from January to December?
I mean, hopefully we are a little bit. Hopefully we've changed.
Yeah, or what's the same that you didn't, that you don't like too.
Or we've gotten worse.
I hope not. I hope for the sake of all of us that that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, obviously things happen and people have difficult years. There is that too.
Yeah. Our producer Greg, he's really into self-help, and so I want to ask you, like, how do you think about resolutions, and do you make like actual resolutions, or do you just sort of analyze yourself from the past year?
Yeah, I've always been more of the reflect on the past year type, more than making an actual resolution. But that being said, I definitely have done some resolutions before. I think actually when I set up my LLC for my business, it was on January 1st. Hungover as shit.
This year for this year.
No. This was years ago.
Oh, okay.
But you followed that tip that Tracy was talking about, that you did something January 1st that sets you up for how you want the rest of the year to go.
That's a really concrete thing.
I promised myself, I was like, all right, this is I'm going to set it up and whatever. I mean,
maybe that is a good resolution in itself. More I think about that, where you could do that. You could do something concrete on January 1st, and that's a really good idea.
Yeah, this past year I did the dry January for the first time ever. Had never tried it, so
And you know what,
Greg's been a lush all his life.
Yeah,
you know what? I did the same thing because I ended up getting COVID on Christmas Eve, and then I had drinks too, and I felt like shit.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a drop for I don't know how many months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I'm not like totally proud of that.
Yeah, I did the month, and it actually did lead to me drinking a lot less over the past year, just because I was like, wow, I felt so good, not having. It's not like I was getting hammered every night or anything, but like I don't think you realize how much little things like that can affect you, and when you're like, oh wow, you went 4 weeks in a row and you without anything like that. It felt great, and so it did affect the rest of my year, where I was like, you know what, maybe maybe I'll skip the drink when I'm out on this thing, because I know I would be groggy the next day in a way that I wouldn't be otherwise. So
yeah,
it did have
that's
a lasting
really good.
effect. Yeah,
that's good. So yeah, maybe a reset. Maybe instead of, not that I'm saying everybody has to do dry January or 30 days, like the whole 30 or anything like that, but maybe some sort of reset is the way to rethink resolutions instead. That it's not just everything has to change all at once, but just pick one thing, that you're going to reset on and try and reset your relationship with.
And it sounds less daunting. Reset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Resolution sounds so grandiose.
Yeah. But I think the other thing too that I think about a lot, and actually this year was the first year that I saw something different happening. There was this whole thing on social media of people talking about their winter arc. And the winter arc was the 3 months before January. And all of it was content that was geared towards starting now on improving yourself and being a better version of yourself, which is kind of what we're all talking about when we're talking about resolutions, right? We're all looking at ways that we can improve our life or our habits or just ourself in general. I guess all of those would also ultimately improve us as a person. But it was an interesting thing, and I think about this a lot, that resolutions, a lot of time you hit a certain point in the year and you're like, I'll start in January. It's kind of the same concept as like diet starts Monday sort of thing. You're like, why can't it start now? Why does it have to wait until Monday? And I really liked this idea of the winter arc. I sometimes, when I watch some of this health content, I worry about like people getting a little too obsessive with like all of this, self-improvement and constantly feeling like they can't have a season to relax. Because that's the other thing that I do think, like, the holidays are a season where people tend to fall off. There's a lot more parties. There's a lot more traveling. Traveling will definitely wreak havoc in your schedule and make it really difficult to, keep up with all of your healthy routines and stuff like that. But I like the idea of not waiting until January. And I also like the idea of like checking in midway through the year and not just saying it on January and not checking back in until the next January. I think that's really important. I would
love that.
Yeah. So, okay, if we're rethinking, then we're resetting in January, but rechecking in June. Okay, that's the plan. Should we do a quarterly recheck, a quarterly goals check?
Yeah, I love it. And we could do it on this show.
We could. I don't know what my resolutions are for the year. I haven't really thought about that. Not resolutions, resetting, what my resets are for the year.
And think about what I want to do is not just reflect back now. I'm really thinking about being more conscious of each month and, okay, I'm going to do I'm going to do something different. Maybe it's going to be a monthly thing and do
Yeah.
something new, have some new experience.
Being conscious of it is a really important part. I think what you're doing when you're writing in that journal is you're being conscious of it. I love the idea of keeping a journal. And it's not, I'm sure you're not writing in that every day, right? It's just like when something.
Sure I am.
Okay. No, I don't think you even have to. I'm just
Right.
saying, like, your whole idea that I love is that you're like, oh, this is something different that I didn't do last year, and I'm writing it down. Just being conscious of it.
I have
And
to
maybe
show,
for some people it is consciously writing in a journal every day.
Okay, I have to show you because I just forgot about something. I'm just going to show you once for 1 second. Speaking of brains, this I started
your
this
brain?
year is neurographic art, and it's just doing circles. It's super simple. Anybody can do it, and you just take a black pen and then you fill in the circles. It's all on YouTube. You can see it. My friend got me into this. It's a meditation. It's a way to kind of clear your mind, but you're creating this art. It's not meant to necessarily be a full-on art piece, but it can be. But and it does something to your brain because it emulates the brain, the pathways of the brain.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's something new. So I'm going to do more of that.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
Just
'cause
as
it's
little
super
as you're going
simple.
to take the time to do that. Especially, I just don't. I get so caught up in everything that's going on that I think it's hard for me to take a step and not be busy. I'm the type of person. Okay, this is sad. I can be in my house. It could be a rainy day in Los Angeles, and I've literally only done like the 7-minute walk outside in the morning with my dog because she doesn't like the rain either. She'll poop real quick when it's raining. And then like evening, like 5-10 minute walk or whatever it is, and still be in my house and get 10,000 steps because I don't sit.
Wow.
Do you know how hard it would be for me to sit down and actually do something like that?
Well, maybe that's why you need to do it. I'll show you.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun to do because it's so simple.
I have a really hard, like I can't sit during television. I'm constantly getting up and like constantly I really have a problem.
10,000 steps in your apartment.
in my own apartment.
Wow.
And it's a studio apartment, guys. It's not that big.
That's pretty, I mean, that's
it just means I'm
something.
not sitting down. There's something in me that just has a really hard time sitting for long periods of time. I just have this urge of like, I got to do something. So maybe that should be my resolution is sitting down and actually coloring or doing something calming.
Honestly, I'm kind of impressed with that because I don't do that.
You sit?
I do.
I find a lot of people sit.
Even though I run and I get my 15,000 steps,
Yeah.
hopefully I try to do that.
Yeah.
But you know what? And this could be another episode. That's pretty healthy. The people that move around like you do, that's
Yeah.
a really healthy lifestyle. Just to keep moving.
It can't. Well, yes. So this is funny. Speaking of, if we were like talking about health, like that's the whole biggest thing. You know how people, when they say that they're having a hard time losing weight and they're eating less and they're working out more, but it's because you're also not just moving during the day. There's a lot of people that they may go to the gym for 30 minutes, but then they're sitting the rest of the day and your body is like not doing
Exactly.
anything. When you fidget more, when you like move around a lot more, you're burning calories without even thinking about it.
Absolutely. Well, you're onto something.
There you go. Anyway, that was a little bit of a side note, but I'm not a personal trainer. Please don't take my advice. This is just what I've heard. Okay. I want to get into what makes a good resolution. Okay, so we talked about resolutions just sort of suck in general because I think the notion of a resolution implies that it's this big sweeping thing that you have to wait until January or once a year to sort of do. And so I went and looked at, have you read the book Atomic Habits?
A little bit.
Okay, you read a little bit of it. So it's a really popular book. I would say it kind of got repopularized during COVID. I think it came out in like 2019 or something like that, maybe a couple years before. But during COVID, it very caught on with all of the influencer world and everybody and their mother was reading it. It's got a lot of good tips. I would say after reading this book and then like a year later reading Toxic Productivity, there's a little bit of red flags that go off in me. But it has 4 laws for it. that it sort of abides by. And they're make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And that's like if you want to build a habit, if you want to create a new routine, you have to make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
So what
And
is
then it'll stick.
obvious? What does that mean by make it obvious? That's interesting.
Okay, before I get into that,
Okay.
I also want to say, I told you I come from the corporate world, and have you heard the term SMART goals?
I don't think so.
Okay. So SMART goals is an acronym of how a lot of companies do goal planning. And it's the S stands for specific, and then it's measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So all of these are kind of like, here are the parameters in which like you have to like make a plan about a goal is really what it is. If you have an idea of something that you want to achieve, you really got to be aware of it, make it so that way you have a clear path on how you want to achieve it, and then like have a plan on how you're going to do it. So back to Atomic Habits, the make it obvious thing. The way that he talks about making something obvious is being aware of like whatever the bad habit is that you want to break, or the situation as to why you're not creating the good habit. And then you got to kind of just like put it in your face. Like really, you can't deny it. So for example, if I have a habit of constantly always forgetting to take my vitamins, we'll put it right in front of your coffee.
Okay.
It's obvious. It's right in your face.
Yeah.
It's hard to ignore, you know? And I think that like, it's true. Having a plan for some of these things, whether you're going by SMART goals or the 4 laws of atomic habits, it seems like having a plan is the way to go. You can't just like wake up January 1st, make all of these promises to yourself about how you're going to improve this, and this, and then not have a plan of how you're going to do that.
Because it definitely inspires us or me to do it when there is some plan like that, even though I hate planning.
And be realistic with yourself about what is keeping you. I think this is why it's so important to journal and be aware of your behaviors, because if you're realistic about what has kept you from doing it before, then you can be more aware of how to take down obstacles that are keeping it from you. So if the goal is that you want to get to the gym, I know I keep going back to this, but like if the goal is that you want to go to the gym, but then you always feel like you don't have any time to do it, like setting out your gym clothes the night before, or having a packed bag of gym clothes in your car already ready to go, and choosing a gym that is much closer to home, only a 5-minute drive,
right,
you're eliminating a lot of obstacles of finding that time. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking about also decluttering, because it is on my mind, and oh God, I have
Tell me about that.
Well, and I think it's decluttering in so many ways, but I'm talking about just the basic decluttering, closet papers and all that. And I get overwhelmed, like we all do, I'm sure. But I think the thing that works the best is you just do one little thing. I'm just going to do this one thing. Even if you know you can do more, just do the one little thing.
Yeah.
And then you kind of trick yourself, and then you'll end up doing more. And it's that thing of feeling overwhelmed, like, oh, it's like me, redoing my place. I have so many things I need to do, and it's overwhelming. It's like, where do I even begin? But the idea is you just have to begin. So it's true for any kind of goal. It's
true. And also we are, again, back to that whole long-term thinking versus short-term thinking. We're all prone to like that little dopamine hit,
exactly.
Right? When you just get one thing done and you're like, ooh, now I'm motivated to keep going.
Yeah.
Or now I got that one thing done, I got to like keep up this momentum. I think it's really important. You're right. To like start slow, be realistic with yourself about what's in your way, make a plan to try and get rid of those obstacles, and like probably read some books about creating smart goals in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's so many things to think about. And well, I have a question for you, Sierra. Are you going to do anything on actual New Year's?
I have not made any New Year's plan. You mean New Year's Day?
Eve.
Oh, I haven't made any plans.
I wonder if less people actually go out for New Year's Eve. I wonder what the stats are on that now. It just seems like maybe the pandemic.
I don't like going out
things.
on New Year's. It's not that I don't like being in a house full of people. That's fine to me. But going out in Los Angeles on New Year's is a disaster. There's too many drunk people.
I'm going
out
to
there.
bed at like 8:00, and I don't care. I'm going to go to bed early.
Yeah, that's fine. Go for it. I mean, I think last year, I don't think I made it to midnight last year, but I feel like I usually at least make it to midnight and then I go to bed. It's weird because there was COVID in there. And ever since COVID, where we all kind of had to just be home, you couldn't be at a bar doing it. I haven't had a desire to go back to a bar and be there for like the club.
I think it's really changed things. I really do.
It really
The
has.
more I talk to people and the farther we get away from it, I just feel like it's changed our lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like things like that. Not wanting to go out into crowded bars or whatever.
Yeah.
I think
agree.
in a good way, though. I think that's a good result.
It is good. Rethinking how you need to start that new year is smart. It honestly does not set you up for success to be drinking until 2 a.m. If you're really trying to if New Year's Day is supposed to kick off the way that you're starting your year and set the intention for the rest of the year, being hungover is not a fun way to do that.
Yeah, that's a motivator for me.
Yeah. It is a good motivator. I think this year, what I would like to do is take a piece from your book and instead of sit down and like making resolutions, looking at all the things that I did differently, and then all the things that like I did the same that I would like to switch up.
Oh, that's good too.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some getting in a rut and some things that I had every intention of changing. It just didn't happen, Just got to sit down and reflect. Sit down with yourselves and be honest with yourself.
Exactly. I think that's the best resolution. No resolution and reinvent our
and then also like, when you're thinking about resolutions, like, is this actually going to make an impact on my life?
Right.
Is there really going to be, what's the impact? Especially, I keep going to the gym thing. And I think it's because like so many people will be talking about that at the beginning of the year because a lot of people wait until January to get back on track of the gym. But is going to the gym 5 days a week going to make a difference, or is just starting to go to the gym 3 days really going to make the difference? And I think consistency over perfectionism, right? Like I can consistently get to the gym twice a week. Great. Do that. Don't try to go 4 times a week if you haven't been in 4 or 5 months. Start with 2. And if you can work that in your schedule and then, come our next quarterly assessment of you that you sit down with yourself again, like maybe you can like amp it up again to like one more day in there that you can kind of fit in. And I think that's fine. Slow and steady wins the race. We're not all trying to be perfect overnight. I think we got to be realistic with ourselves, and it takes time to be a better person. It takes time to reach your goals. Be okay with that.
And I think we can, for me, I think about how can I be different in the ways I want to be different. Just interpersonal stuff.
Yeah.
Be less emotional, less reactive, like those kinds of things are what I like to do.
Yeah.
But, we're all a work in progress.
Yep. Accountability over perfectionism. Consistency over perfectionism. Okay, guys? And that's all. Okay. Those are my thoughts. Anybody else got thoughts?
Looking at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you said resonates with me for sure. I think the method of, building a wall one brick at a time, like what's the one small thing I can do daily that will then eventually, because it's you're like, I gotta build this wall, like, oh my god, it's gonna take weeks.
It's overwhelming.
It's like, whatever, how many, there's not enough hours in the day, but it's like, if you can be like, all right, I'm gonna set aside 30 minutes and I'm going to accomplish this one thing. And you have to define what that is, because otherwise, it just won't happen. But if you're like, okay, well, tomorrow, like, your goal is to write a novel or something. All right, well, I'm going to write 1 page. You'll probably end up writing 5, but don't worry if you don't. If you write the 1, you sit there and you stare at a blank cursor for 30 minutes, like whatever the thing is. Like if it's like, all right, I'm going to just sit in the chair and do the thing. If you do that each day, eventually, you'll build the wall. Whereas if you just set out to like, well, I got to get it, it's going to be overwhelming. You're going to burn out. You're not going to, and then a year later, you're going to be looking back and be like, well, I didn't do the thing,
Exactly.
So yeah, so small,
And also
actionable
just,
steps.
yeah, and then picking and choosing the things that you're really going to tackle. Because I think putting too much on your plate, that also becomes overwhelming. If you have 20 resolutions, that can, in and of itself can be overwhelming. Even if you're just picking one little tiny thing for each of them, that's way too many things to try and be improving in your life, right? So like being realistic of whether or not these things are actually improving your life, being realistic with what is sustainable and what are the reasons why you weren't able to achieve them before. And then also just asking yourself, like, is doing all of this promoting a healthy relationship with myself and making me work towards the ultimate goal of what I want to be? Because that, like,
Exactly.
otherwise, what are we doing this for, Hannah?
Exactly. All right, here's a couple of things. I'll put it out there
Yeah.
that I'm going to do.
Okay.
And they're not New Year's resolutions. They're just, we'll just say they're just doing things differently or doing more of what I love. More travel, drink more water, and I forgot the third one. Well, I'll do more of my neurographic meditative art. Those are
Nice.
3 things I'll do.
I like that. I should probably drink
Yeah.
more water too. Realistically, I'm really bad at that. I think we're all bad at that.
And let go and be a little more detached. But okay, I could go on. Never mind.
There's a lot of things. Look, we all got things we got to work on. You don't have to get them all done by next year.
Exactly. Oh, and declutter. Don't forget. I won't do that. I'll do one box.
Just start with one of those
one
each
little
month.
box, one tiny box.
Maybe that's what you should do. Start with one a month. If you have like 12 things you want to get done in a year, like do one in January.
do one a
Just
month.
focus on one in January.
Exactly.
There you go. All right. Well, that's all we got today, I think. Thanks for coming along with us today. If you want more, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Along Podcast. Bye.
Bye. Happy New Year.